But, you know, it goes to show that I think the actual reason why the Epping Hotel is still open is a lot more sinister.
It's a lot deeper, and I think it comes down to this in particular judge as well. Now, we already know that it was already in court. It was already there that they said that the Epping, the Bell Hotel was going to be closed down, ship bust, right? And Labour had lost that initial appeal, but then they appealed again with a different judge, almost like it'd been cherry-picked on. This man called Lord Justice Bean. He was the guy that, of course, ruled that migrants can stay at the Essex Hotel. And the dark bit, he's a former chair of the Fabian Society, which is, of course, the socialist think tank linked to Labour. And when you research the Fabian Society, it gets a whole lot darker. Do you want to start us off on the Fabian Society?
I cannot wait. So 1884, the creation of the Fabian Society in London. It was effectively the first political think tank in the UK. It's a left-wing think tank for Edwardian Britain. Now, Fabians believed in a gradual moral transformation of British society into socialism. The Fabian Socialists therefore devised a strategy of gradualism, which is kind of different to the Marxist kind of revolutionary socialism. Now, the name comes from Fabius, who was a Roman general. Now, Fabius was most famous for patiently waiting against his battles against Hannibal. So I've got a quote here from the Fabian Society. "For the right moment you must wait, as Fabius did most patiently when warring against Hannibal. Through many censured his delayed, but when the time comes you must strike hard, as Fabius did, or your waiting will be in vain and fruitless." Now, the key parts of the Fabian Society is they were instrumental in the creation of the Labour Party. So there was three main groups who were instrumental in the Labour Party creation. So the Fabians were a major participant, along with the Trade Union Congress, which is the TUC, independent Labour parties, and also the Marxist Socialist Democratic Federation. So we know there and then that the Labour Party was created by Marxists. Now, as it stands right now, there are 141 Fabian Society members who are currently members of Parliament within Labour, as stated in a LinkedIn post.
Yeah, well, I just want to add a little bit more on that in terms of what their sort of beliefs are. They're socialism, right? And as you said, they like to be introduced their stuff gradually through reform and legislation rather than by revolution, as you kind of touched upon.
Yep.
Now, the Fabians believed in using education, debate, and political influence to steer society towards equality and social justice. So we know what their remit is as an organization. We know what they're all about as a group. And as you said, 141?
141.
They're in the Labour Party. And again, they have been linked to the party since the dawn of time, essentially, since Labour began, and do play a key influence. And this influence today still exists. And of course, they're a left-leaning policy institute. And still to this day publishes pamphlets, holds conferences, and advises Labour politicians. So
some of the actual policies that they have sort of pushed and tried to introduce are things like the NHS, other things such as like universal credit and sort of benefits welfare system as well. These are the type of policies that they push. They want to also do gradual increases in taxation, direct taxation. So before, the system of taxation was revolving around tariffs, and then they wanted to introduce direct tax, which is obviously the payee tax we have today. So that's one of the main sort of policy pushes that they've pushed as well. Now, I've actually gone through their sort of 1884 manifesto, which really gives you an insight into some of the policy decisions that Labour are making today. So I've got a couple here that I want to go over. Now, one of them, it says, the practice of entrusting the land of the nation to private persons in the hope that they will make the best of it has been discredited by the consistency with which they have made the worst of it, and that the nationalisation of the land in some form is a public duty. So right now, the nationalisation, that is basically code word for the theft of property, which history proves is disastrous. We can look into case studies in South Africa where these farmers get their farms taken from them, and they go from, a productive farm that makes, a lot of food to barren wasteland. The same in Rhodesia, otherwise known as Rwanda. The same thing happened there.
Zimbabwe, no?
Rhodesia. Well,
Oh,
it happened in,
yeah.
then they changed it.
No, but there's Rhodesia was Zimbabwe is now Rhodesia.
It's the other way around.
Was it?
Yeah,
Rwanda?
it was Rhodesia first, and then it was Zimbabwe. Did I say
No,
Rwanda?
you said Rwanda. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, Zimbabwe is now Rhodesia.
That's correct.
Was Rhodesia? Sorry.
So we can actually look at that philosophy into legislation that's happened recently with the farmers tax and inheritance tax. So that is an attack on private property, and is also, a way to seize this land through this progressive, gradualistic, legislative reform.
Yeah.
One more is that since competition among producers admittedly secures to the public the most satisfactory products, the state should compete with all its might in every department of production. So the issue is here that state competition is an oxymoron because the government subsidizes themselves with tax. The government effectively has unlimited wealth and money because it can print money. Therefore, state competition against private residents is always going to be unfair because they have unlimited money. Now, we've seen this actually through the state competing with private residents in the housing market. So, if I was to go rent a house in London, I would actually be competing against government subsidized HMOs. So we're seeing these type of philosophies get pushed into law this is 140 years later.
Yeah, no, I see it. And if we want to go a little bit darker into it and talk about this judge and the way Labour's approach is with illegal migration and not really tackling it, they're kind of saying that they're doing something, but they're not. You can clearly see that they want it to continue. Where do you think that interlines back in history as to why they want this to happen? Is it for the vote or?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why, it's kind of like a clear sort of method to get re-elected here is that all these people, if they sort of naturalize all these people, they're all going to vote for the party that did that for them, right?
Yeah.
So they're effectively importing voters. Now, Labour know for a fact that they're not going to get the next election. So for them, this is a massive push to bring in as many people as they want, which effectively are all going to vote Labour.
Yeah, and looking at the sheer numbers over the last few years, that was something that will work. I just want to touch on the Fabian Society again quickly, and maybe their sort of early symbolism and their sort of emblem and logo, right? As I said, it was founded in 1884, and the famous one, it's not the logo anymore, but the one that they started off with, it first appeared in the 1890s, and it was a wolf in sheep's clothing. We'll get it up on the screen. And as I said, it kind of goes into what that is. If you think about the wolf in sheep's clothing, it tells you everything you need to know, right?
Yeah, it tells you exactly what their philosophy is. And it's not just Labour MPs that are part of the society. We've got, businessmen. We've also got, as I said, this judge. So we've got Lord Justice Bean, who was the ex-chairman, not just a member, but the ex-chairman of the Fabian Society. Now, is that not a massive conflict of interest?
It is massively, but because it's not a Labour judge, it's linked through, in a way, they're closely aligned.
Yeah.
However, that's probably the way that they get around it. But I thought, the justice system is to, make a decision without fear or favour. And this, contradicts that massively. And this individual, the fact that it was already shut down, then they had an appeal, and then they handpicked one of their own to make the decision, just tells you everything you need to know. But this is not getting spread around. This information isn't there for everyone. See, no one's talking about it.
100%.
Why?
This is the problem. So when you have the judicial arm sort of join forces with the state, now the judicial arm is meant to sort of keep the state in checks and balances. It's meant to be the unbiased sort of legislative arm of society. And yet there is this kind of crossover, this link between the two. So when Labour want things to happen, they just go to their Labour judges who will sort of back them. Now this judge was actually was a Labour member for 28 years. Again, we're talking about a man who is meant to be unbiased in this scenario, and there is clear favouritism. I think, Lord Justice Bean, how is this man able to get this case? Firstly, obviously, we understand probably through Labour picking and choosing what.
Oh, we know how they got it, but how was he allowed to get it? Do you know what I mean? How is there not more uproar about it? They can't be having individuals like this, making decisions on their behalf. It's crazy.
Exactly. And it is being challenged. So a man called Mr. Barrett, who is a barrister, he's highlighted that Lord Justice Bean has been a Labour member party for 28 years, has formerly served as the deputy chairman of the Society for Labour Lawyers, and is a former chair of the Fabian Society, which, as we understand, is a socialist think tank. Now, the issue is that he says that Lord Justice Bean earned in failing to properly consider, or if not failed to consider, failed to properly apply the test of his apparent bias. So this is being challenged in court due to his bias.
That's good. No, that's good. I was going to say I never seen that report, but it's good that, of course, it is being challenged, and hopefully.
Exactly. And he also said, in my opinion, Lord Justice Bean has earned in agreeing to hear such an important case when it involved his friends in Labour. So there is this champagne socialist class of elites who are, coalitioning together in order to implement their sort of will onto the public, which is directly against the will.
Exactly.
It's important to understand that these biases run deep. Now, you have these road judges. Road judges should be completely eliminated because they need to be unbiased. If we're going to have a fair judicial system, we need to have unbiased judges. That is the cornerstone of a fair democracy. And when you have this sort of crossover, it just underpins everything.
I agree. Have you got any more on this or the Fabian Society?
I do have one more thing. So I was reading a report from 2019 called The Open and Ethical. It's a collection of essays the Fabian Society used to criticize the hostile environment of policies as cruel and ineffective in relation to immigration. Now, one of the contributors to this essay was David Lammy. Obviously, and he's an advocate for regularizing undocumented migrants, ending indefinite detention of asylum seekers, and ensuring appeal rights, arguing these reforms benefit both migrants and society. But he put migrants before society in that statement, which I think is quite sinister.
Well, it goes with what they're all saying. They're all towing that sort of mantra right now, though, aren't they? They're saying that the asylum seekers' rights are far greater than the people of Britain.
100%.
So, I mean, it's all, at least one thing is that they're not lying, I suppose. I mean, Keir Starmer's doing one thing, posting stuff on social media about detaining and deporting, but all of the others, they're singing from the same hymn sheet at this moment in time,
100%. And
actually kind of contradicting their own guy at the top. Home Office, publicly in court. You've got that Labour MP on TV. Then you've, of course, got David Lammy and the other 141 members that probably have those views.
Exactly. That's why you can't believe these propaganda videos that Keir is putting on all over X and Facebook and stuff like that.
Who's he trying to kid? Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. Who is he trying to fool?